right, so yeah, that built, you see the dists. Please make sure you git ignore the dist. Do not check that into GitHub. That will be bad. That is a generated directory. But yeah, you can see, let's go look at our index.js. It's, it's the same JavaScript you would have wrote, just like this, but different, way different. Okay, so we got that. That looks good. And now let's try to start it. So if I say npm start, I'm starting the JavaScript version of our server, and it works the same way. It's just the JavaScript version. Okay, so we confirmed that those work. We're ready to deploy now. So what you need to do is, if you didn't make that change that I made for the port, you would need to make that change now. So I already changed mine to config.port, which is going to be based off some environment variable called stage, which would be like production, and that's going to change the port. If yours is still a number, this will not work when we deploy. You cannot have a number here when we deploy. This has to be an environment variable that says process.env.port, which for me is bound to a config file, which I can change, or actually, I'm talking, and I didn't even change my back. Look at that. Which I can change based off of an environment variable called stage, process env stage. Okay, so first thing first, you need to push this on GitHub. If you haven't pushed this on GitHub already, make a GitHub repo, push this to GitHub. You're gonna have to put this on GitHub to get this deployed. If you don't have a GitHub, why? Make a GitHub and put this on GitHub. Okay, so I already have like 3 different versions of this on GitHub, so I'm just gonna make another version of this on GitHub. Make a new repo. I'm gonna call it API design v4 again. And I'm gonna keep it public. Create my repo. Go down here, add all these things. Do I already have a remote thing here? I'm gonna just delete my remote thing. Get out of here. There we go. Okay, got that. Do that thing, and then let's commit our stuff. And then do that thing. Okay, so I did the things. I pushed it to my GitHub, and I can refresh my GitHub, and it should be there. So everything looks good here, looking fine. Now you want to go to render.com. Make an account if you didn't. And yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on here. It's actually quite simple. So you got a couple options. If you already made a database on Render, we can just reuse the database, or you can make another one. It doesn't matter, but we can just use the database that you already have. It's not a big deal. But yeah, in production, you don't want to use like the same local database you use to develop as the same database you use in production. Like, just make sure those are 2 different databases. Typically, you want to use the local database on your computer for local development, and this one for production. So then you click New. If you are going to make a new database, you can click Postgres. If not, you just want to click Web Service. Web Service is basically just like anything that needs a port. So in our case, that's an API. It needs a port. So we're going to do Web Service. A static site does not need a port. So if you were going to deploy a React site here, you can just go static site. That's just a file that it'll put on the CDN. But this needs a port. So we're going to Web Service. They got other ones here like Private Service, which is basically like, it's kind of like localhost. They'll basically create a virtual network that only you have access to through things like firewalls and stuff like that. It's not connected to the external world. A background worker is basically something that doesn't have a URL. It's like a child process. It's like some work that you can do in the background. It doesn't need a port, and it doesn't have a URL to navigate to. You can only access it through a process. A cron job is like some work that you can do on some interval. I have a script. I want the script to happen every 5 minutes, and then stop. That's a cron job, and all this other stuff. So web service, enough talking. So this is why I said you had to put this on GitHub, because it mostly just connects on GitHub. GitLab too, if you like GitLab. GitLab's cool. Going to connect mine. I think you have to give it a globally unique name. So I'm going to say API design, or maybe it's just unique to your account, not sure yet. API design v4 again. Root directory. I think you want to just keep this the same. Do not change the root directory. I think you just want to leave that, because it's not the root directory in which it's not the root directory in like which you're going to be executing the code. It's the root directory of the project before we build it. And if you change this, the whole build command will be messed up. So don't change this. Environment is node. We're good. Region doesn't really matter. Branch for me is the main branch. You can check your branch by going back to GitHub, but for me, I was on the main branch. And then build command. So by default, render is not going to install anything for you. If we don't install our packages, this won't build. So I'm going to install my packages. I'm going to say npm install. And I'm going to do the double ampersand, which basically just means wait for this to be done and then do this next thing. So I'm going to say npm install. And then I want to do npm run build, which is the command that we just ran that built final. It worked on my machine. So, we'll see if it works here. And then the start command is just npm start. Okay? And then make sure you pick the free plan, because you might not be able to downgrade later. And if we get this right the first time, that would be great. But we'll probably have to add some environment variables after it deploys, because I don't think you get the option to add the environment variables until you try to deploy it. And it won't work until we add a database URL. So it'll probably break the first deployment until we can go back and add the environment variable, since we don't have the option to do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to click Create Web Service. And it's just going to do what we told it to do. It's going to go clone our repo. And it's just going to go through and try to do all the things we told it to do. It's going to try to install. It's going to try to build. It's going to try to do all these things. It might get to the point where it tries to actually run the server. But like I said, it's for sure going to break, because we didn't add the environment variable here for the database, because we didn't have the option to. And we also didn't, for me at least, I didn't change my stage to production. So it's probably going to try to connect to like port 3001 or something, which is obviously not going to work. But I want you to see it trying to deploy right quick. So it installed the packages. That was successful. It's building with TypeScript. Looks like that was successful. And now it determined that the build was done. I have no more tasks for it. So now it's creating a container image for the build. This has everything to do with things like Docker and Kubernetes, where it's just like creating an image, a copy of my build, and putting it somewhere so I can reuse it. And once it's done with that, it'll probably try to like start it up actually with the start command, and that's what it'll probably break. And this is no different than most hosting providers. They pretty much all do the same thing, which is good, I think, because you can just like switch from one hosting provider to another, unless it's like AWS, which is tough, which is probably what everyone's using underneath. But yeah, it's mostly it's good right now to be a person that needs to deploy APIs. It's a good time. 4 years ago, it was not a good time. 5 years ago, not a good time. It was terrible. Like there was just like a whole 6-page, this is how you deploy to Beanstalk. And you're like, okay, all right, let's do it. Like that was tough. So, okay, while that's happening, oh, there it is. So it's uploading. Yeah, we'll come back to this. Let's just add our environment variables. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna add stage, and for me, my value is production. I'm gonna add a new environment variable. Everyone needs this one, JWT secret. You don't have this, it's just not gonna work. Value is, stop looking at my secrets. And then I need database URL, which I actually have to go get from over here, this one. And this time I want the internal database URL because I'm using an internal app on Render. Database URL. There we go. And then I can save those changes. When you add environment variables, it's going to redeploy the app for you. Which in my case, I don't know what's going to happen since it was already deploying. So yeah, it looks like it started on 301, but that's probably going to break. So I'm going to wait for this thing to redeploy. Let's see what happens. Here we go. So it's trying to redeploy right here. Okay, there we go. It seems like it is now up. Let's see if it works. Yay, it works. There's my error message. So we got it deployed and we can see my error message. So I don't know, let's see if we can try to sign up right quick. So I'm gonna go to Thunder Client. I'm gonna make I know I have a post for a user here somewhere. There we go. So I'm gonna change this out to that /user, change this to render.com, and let's see if we can make a user. There we go. API deployed, success. Yeah, I mean, it's so much easier now. It's like, it's so great. I love it. So many options.